Hey everyone, tonight we're going to dive into the wild, blade-sharp life of Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's legendary swordsman, artist, and philosopher whose undefeated spirit carved a path through a chaotic world. Picture this. You're standing on a windswept beach, salt in the air, a wooden sword in your hand, staring down a rival whose blade could slice the wings off a swallow mid-flight. You probably won't survive this, but if you're Musashi, you're not sweating it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing who's out there in the dark, joining me for this tale. Now, turn down the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soft background music, and let's get started tonight. You blink into the world in 1584, a squalling infant in Miyamoto Village, nestled in the rugged hills of Harima Province. Japan's Sengoku period is a mess of clashing warlords, burning castles, and betrayal so common it's practically a handshake. Picture a land where samurai strut like roosters, swords gleaming, while peasants, like your family, dodge the chaos. Your crib isn't exactly a silk-draped dream. It's more like a wooden box with a side of drafts. Your first toy? A stick, probably, because life's already handing you a blade before you can say, samurai. Your father, Shinmen Munisai, is no soft-hearted dad tossing you in the air. He's a swordsman, the kind who'd rather slice a log than hug his kid. His parenting style is simple. Here's a wooden sword. Swing it. Don't cry when you fall. Affection? That's for people who don't expect to die by 30. Munisai's fought in official duels under the Ashikaga shogunate, his name carrying weight in a world where steel speaks louder than words. He's not raising a son, he's forging a weapon. You learn early that survival is your only gold star. The village is your playground, but it's no picnic. Smoke lingers in the air, horses stomp through muddy paths, and the clank of steel is as common as birdsong. While other kids chase bugs, you're ambushing them from behind bushes, declaring victory with a stick raised high. You're scrappy, wild, probably smell like dirt half the time. The villagers whisper about you. That kid with eyes too sharp for his age, already gripping a practice sword like it's part of his arm. Your bedtime stories aren't fairy tales. They're tales of samurai cleaving enemies in two, told with the same tone your mom uses to remind you to eat your rice. Life's a pressure cooker, but you thrive in it. At 6, you're not learning kanji like a good little scholar. You're learning to dodge Munisai's swings. Bruises are your report card, silence his praise. One day, you block a strike without stumbling, and he grunts closest thing to good job you'll ever get. Historians still debate whether Munisai was a genius teacher or just a hard man in a harder world. But either way, his lessons stick. You're not just strong, you're meaner, smarter, always one step ahead of the kid dumb enough to challenge you to a mock duel. By 13, you're a walking contradiction, a scrawny kid with a stare that could spook a wolf. Enter Arima Kihei, a cocky samurai from a nearby martial arts school, swaggering into Miyamoto like he owns it. He's all polish and pride, thinking no village brat would dare step up. Big mistake. Word spreads like wildfire. Little Musashi's challenged a real samurai. The villagers gather, bets are placed, and your family braces for your inevitable defeat. You're 13, armed with a wooden sword that smells like it was chopped from a tree that morning. Arima laughs, expecting a quick win. Joke's on him. The duel's over faster than a bad haiku. You lunge, raw and savage, catching him off guard. Your wooden sword cracks against his pride, then his skull. He's down, bleeding, humiliated a grown samurai bested by a kid who probably forgot to wash his face. The crowd stunned, half expecting you to sprout demon horns. Even Munasai's eyes flicker with something like pride, or maybe fear. You've drawn first blood, and it feels like the world's taken notice. Somewhere deep inside, you know this is just the start. The path ahead is sharp, bloody, and yours, alone. Let's lighten the mood with a joke. Why did the samurai kid always win at hide and seek? Because he ambushed the seeker before the game even started. You're not here for games, though. That fight with Arima isn't just a win, it's a declaration. Miyamoto Musashi isn't just a name, it's a warning. And Japan, with its war-torn fields and scheming lords, is about to learn it the hard way. Here's an odd detail. Some say your wooden sword from that duel was so poorly carved, it still had bark on it. No one knows if it's true, but it fits you didn't need polish to win, just grit. The victory spreads your name beyond Miyamoto, a whisper on the wind. There's a kid out there who fights like he's possessed. You're not possessed, though. You're just hungry for skill, for victory, for a life bigger than this village. Your father's lessons, brutal as they were, have carved you into something dangerous. Not a boy, not yet a man, but a spark ready to ignite. The world around you is a tinderbox. Warlords clash, alliances crumble, and every road is a gamble between bandits and starvation. You're not thinking about that, though. You're thinking about the next fight, the next chance to prove you're more than Munasai's son. You're a blade, half-forged, and the fire's only getting hotter. The Sengoku period's chaos is your crucible, and you're ready to burn. Joke number 2. What's a samurai's least favorite vegetable? Anything that's too soft to slice. You're not soft. Never were. The villagers see it, your father sees it, and soon, all of Japan will. You're not just surviving this brutal world, you're starting to shape it. One swing at a time. The dirt of Miyamoto Village clings to your feet, but your eyes are already on the horizon, where swords clash and legends are born. You're still a kid, barely a teenager, but the dirt of Miyamoto Village feels like it's hardening into armor around you. Your father, Shinmen Munisai, isn't letting up. His training sessions are less father-son bonding and more like a blacksmith hammering raw iron into something deadly. You wake up to the sound of his voice barking orders, your hands already calloused from gripping a wooden sword. Breakfast? Maybe some cold rice, if you're lucky. But more likely, you're swallowing a lecture about footwork before the sun's fully up. Munisai's not just teaching you to fight. He's teaching you to survive a world where hesitation gets you buried. His dojo, a patch of hard-packed dirt behind your house, is your classroom. No fancy tatami mats or incense here, just dust, sweat, and the occasional stray chicken wandering through your sparring sessions. Munisai's a master of the blade, a man who's won duels for the Ashikaga shogunate, and he drills that legacy into you with every swing. Parry here, step there, don't blink. His voice is sharp as a katana's edge, and his praise is rarer than a quiet day in Sengoku Japan. One time, you dodge a strike cleanly, and he nods, just once. It's like the heavens opened. But then he smacks you with the flat of his sword for getting cocky. Lesson learned. Pride is a luxury you can't afford. You're not like the other kids who dream of festivals or sneaking extra mochi. You dream of battles, of predicting an opponent's swing before they even twitch. While they're playing tag, you're studying the rhythm of a fight, how a man's stance betrays his next move, how a flicker in his eyes screams fear. You're scrappy, wild, with hair that's more nest than neat, but there's a fire in you, that Munisai's forging into something unstoppable. The villagers notice. They whisper about the kid who trains like he's possessed, who doesn't cry when he bleeds. Some call you feral, others call you a prodigy. You don't care what they call you, you just want to be better. Here's a canonical event. Munisai once fought in a formal duel for the shogunate, slicing through his opponent with a single perfect strike. The story's told around campfires, exaggerated with each retelling, but it's why he's so hard on you. He knows the cost of weakness in a world where warlords play chess with human lives. His training isn't just about swordplay, it's about making you a weapon that can't be broken. You absorb every lesson, even the painful ones, because you're starting to see it. The sword isn't just steel, it's an extension of your will, your heartbeat, your refusal to lose. An odd detail sticks out in the village gossip. Munisai once made you spar with a live blade at age 10, a chipped old katana that weighed more than your scrawny arms could handle. You dropped it, naturally, and he didn't speak to you for a week. True or not, it's the kind of story that follows you, painting you as half-crazed even before you've earned it. Historians still debate whether Munisai's methods were brutal genius or just plain brutal, but one thing's clear, they worked. You're not just learning to fight, you're learning to think like a predator. Always watching, always ready. Let's toss in a joke to keep things light. Why did the samurai kid hate bedtime? Because his dad's lullabies were just sword-sharpening sounds. You're not sleeping much anyway. By 12, you're sneaking out to practice alone, swinging at shadows under the moonlight. The other kids avoid you now, not out of fear, but because you're different. They want to grow up to be farmers or merchants. You want to grow up to be unstoppable. Every bruise, every lecture, every moment, Munisai, pushes you to the edge, is shaping you into something the world's not ready for. Your father's not all cold steel, though. Sometimes, late at night, you catch him watching you as you practice. His face, unreadable. Is it pride? Regret? You'll never know. Because he'd rather duel a bear than talk feelings. But you feel his lessons in your bones. Victory isn't about being the strongest he drills into you. It's about being the smartest, the fastest, the one who sees the fight before it starts. You're starting to understand. A sword can cut flesh, but a sharp mind cuts deeper. The Sengoku period's chaos swirls around you. Armies march, villages burn, and alliances shift like sand. Your family's not wealthy, but Munisai's reputation keeps the worst of it at bay. Still, you hear the stories. Samurai betrayed by their lords, peasants crushed under war horses. It's a world where loyalty's a gamble and survival's a prize. You don't know it yet, but this is the fire that'll temper you, the anvil that'll shape you. You're not just Munisai's son anymore. You're Miyamoto Musashi, and the spark inside you is about to catch. Another joke to keep the vibe loose. What's a young samurai's favorite game? Whack-a-mole, but with a katana. You're not playing games, though. You're starting to see patterns in everything. How a man shifts his weight before a strike. How the wind carries the sound of approaching hooves. Munisai's lessons are brutal, but they're building something in you. A mind that reads the world like a battlefield. A body that moves like a storm. The village kids might laugh at your muddy feet and tangled hair, but they don't see what's coming. You're not just training, you're becoming. By 13, you're ready to prove it. That duel with Arima Kihei wasn't a fluke, it was a promise. You've got Munisai's training in your blood, but it's your own fire driving you now. The world's about to learn your name, and you're not waiting for permission to carve it into history. The dirt of Miyamoto Village is still under your nails, but your eyes are on the horizon, where blades clash and legends are born. You're 13, and the dust of Miyamoto Village still clings to your feet, but you've just done something that makes the whole province choke on their sake. You challenged Arima Kihei, a seasoned samurai from a proper martial arts school, and sent him sprawling with a wooden sword that looked more like a glorified stick. The villagers are buzzing, half in awe, half convinced you're some kind of demon in a kid's body. You're not. You're just Musashi Scrappy, wild, and burning with a fire that even you don't fully understand yet. That duel wasn't just a win. It was a door slamming open to a path you were born to walk. The fight itself is already the stuff of local legend. Picture it. A sunny afternoon, the village square packed with onlookers, betting on how fast Arima will crush you. He's all swagger, his armor polished, his sword gleaming like it's ready to star in a painting. You're a barefoot kid with dirt smudged on your face, gripping a wooden bakken that smells like it was hacked from a tree an hour ago. Arima smirks, probably thinking this'll be over before his tea cools. You don't bow, don't posture, you just move, fast, raw, like a wolf lunging for the throat. One brutal swing, and he's down, groaning, blood mixing with the dirt. The crowd's silent, then erupts. You don't stick around to bask. You just walk off, heart pounding, knowing you've just changed everything. This is the canonical event. Your first public duel, at 13, against Arima Kihei in 1596. It's not just a fight. It's a declaration that Miyamoto Musashi isn't some village kid playing at samurai. You're the real deal, and the world's about to find out. Historians still debate whether you planned that fight or just got fed up with Arima's arrogance. But either way, it's the moment you step out of your father's shadow and into legend. A teenager beating a grown samurai? That's not supposed to happen. But you don't care about supposed to. Here's an odd detail. Some say you didn't even use a proper bakken for the duel. Village gossip claims it was a branch you grabbed on the way, still rough with splinters. True or not, it fits the story of a kid who doesn't need polish to win just pure, unfiltered grit. The victory sends shockwaves. Farmers whisper your name over rice fields. Samurai in nearby towns start checking their swords twice. Even your father, Munisai, looks at you differently now, his usual scowl tinged with something like respect. Or maybe fear, hard to tell with him. Let's toss in a joke to keep the vibe light. Why did the samurai kid skip school? Because he was too busy schooling actual samurai. You're not laughing, though. That fight with Arima wasn't just about winning. It was about proving something to yourself. You've been training under Munisai's iron fist for years, dodging blows, eating bruises for breakfast. But this is you taking the reins, showing the world you're not just a product of your father's forge. You're something sharper, hungrier. The aftermath is messy. The villagers treat you like you're half hero, half monster. Kids who used to tease you for your wild hair now scatter when you walk by. Adults mutter about omens, about how a boy your age shouldn't move like that, shouldn't hit that hard. You don't care. You're already thinking about the next fight, the next chance to test yourself. Arima was a stepping stone, not a destination. You're not here to impress Miyamoto Village. You're here to conquer something bigger, even if you don't know what it is yet. Sengoku Japan doesn't exactly roll out the red carpet for you. The country's a patchwork of warring lords, each with their own armies, their own rules. Loyalty's a coin that buys you protection or a quick death, depending on the day. You're still a nobody in the grand scheme, a kid from a nowhere village with a single win under your belt. But that win's enough. to spark something in you. You start training harder, not just with swords, but with your mind. You watch people how they move, how they flinch, how their eyes betray their fear. You're learning to read the world like a battlefield, and it's a skill that'll carry you further than any blade. Another joke to keep things breezy. What's a teenage samurai's favorite snack? Rice balls, because they're easy to steal between duels. You're not stealing much though. Life's lean, your family's not rich, and Munisai's not exactly showering you with pocket money. You eat what you can, scrounge, sleep where you can, and keep swinging. The duel with Arima has lit a fire in you, but it's also painted a target on your back. Other samurai, local toughs, maybe even Arima's friends, they're out there, hearing about the kid who embarrassed a pro. Some might want to test you, others might want you dead. You're not scared though. Fear's something Munisai beat out of you years ago. Instead, you feel alive, like the world's finally noticing the storm brewing inside you. The dirt paths of Miyamoto Village are too small now, the horizon too close. You're starting to dream of bigger battles, bigger opponents, a bigger life. Arima was just the first. There's a whole world of swordsmen out there, and you're itching to meet them. Not for fame, not for glory, just to see how sharp you can get. The wind carries your name now, a whisper on the edge of Harima Province. Musashi, the kid who felled a samurai. Musashi, the wild one. Musashi, the one to watch or avoid. You don't know it yet, but that duel was the first cut in a legend that'll outlive you by centuries. For now, you're just a 13-year-old with a chipped wooden sword and a hunger that no victory can satisfy. The path ahead is long, bloody, and calling your name. You're 15 now, the taste of that first victory still lingering like a sharp tang on your tongue. But Miyamoto Village feels too small, too stifling, like a worn-out sandal pinching your feet with every step. The dirt paths you've pounded since childhood, the whispers of villagers who now look at you sideways, half awe, half worry, it all starts to chafe. You've beaten a grown samurai, drawn blood in a world that chews up the weak, and suddenly, staying put seems like a slow death. So, you make the call that most kids your age wouldn't dream of. You pack up what little you own, a tattered cloak, your father's old wooden sword, maybe a handful of rice balls, if you're feeling fancy, and you walk out. No grand farewell, no tearful hugs from Munisai, who probably just grunts and turns back to his training dummy. You're gone, stepping into the wild unknown as a ronin, a masterless samurai in a land where loyalty to a lord is your ticket to survival, or so they say. The road stretches out like an endless scroll, dusty and unforgiving under your calloused feet, the sun beating down like it's got a personal grudge. You're not heading anywhere specific, just away from the rigid expectations, the family ties that feel more like chains, the village life that promises nothing but a quiet fade into obscurity. Being a ronin means freedom, sure, but it's the kind of freedom that comes with hunger pangs and nights under leaky trees. You sleep where you can, the ground hard against your back, the stars mocking you with their distant sparkle. Food, whatever you scrounge berries from the roadside, fish yanked from murky rivers with your bare hands, or, if luck's on your side, a stolen radish from a farmer's field. It's not glamorous, it's gritty, the kind of life that leaves you smelling like campfire smoke and sweat, your clothes fraying at the edges like your patience on a bad day. You drift from town to town, the wind carrying rumors ahead of you. That wild kid from Miyamoto, the one who felled Arima like a tree in a storm, Some folks offer you a meal out of curiosity. Others slam doors in your face, figuring a ronin's just trouble wrapped in a cloak. You don't blame them. Japan's a mess of warring clans, armies marching like angry ants, and a lone wanderer like you. You're a wild card, unbound by any lord's banner, answering only to your own sharpening instincts. You seek out dojos along the way, challenging their students not for glory, but for growth. Each duel is a lesson, the clash of wood or steel, teaching you more than any scroll ever could. You win most, lose a few bruises, but every swing hones you sharper, your body adapting to the rhythm of survival. Here's the canonical event. At 15, in 1599, you leave home for good, embarking on your Musha Shugyo, the warrior's pilgrimage, wandering Japan to perfect your swordsmanship through endless duels and hardships. It's not just a teenage rebellion. It's the start of your legend, the moment you choose the blade over the plow, freedom over fealty. Historians still debate whether you fled due to a falling out with Munasai, maybe over his harsh ways, or a family scandal, or if it was pure ambition, a burning need to test yourself against the world without anyone holding the reins. Either way, it sets you on a path that'll carve your name into eternity. An odd detail from those early wandering days. Legend has it you once survived a whole week on nothing but wild mushrooms and river eels you caught by stabbing them with a sharpened stick, your stomach rumbling like distant thunder. True or tall tale, it paints you as half man, half beast, thriving where others would starve. You're not out here playing tourist. Every mile is a dojo, every stranger a potential teacher or a threat. You challenge local swordsmen in dusty squares, your unkempt hair flying like a banner of defiance, your strikes fast and feral. They expect a polished duel, all bows and forms. You give them chaos, adapting on the fly, turning their rules against them. Let's slip in a joke to ease the tension. Why did the ronin refuse to join a lord's army? Because he couldn't stand the idea of someone else calling the shots literally. You're not laughing, though. You're too busy dodging bandits on the road, their crude blades no match for your growing skill. Another fight, another win, and you move on. The taste of victory, sweet but fleeting, like a stolen sip of sake. The wilderness shapes you in ways Munisai never could. The cold nights teaching patience, the endless walks building endurance, the solitude sharpening your mind like a whetstone on steel. You bump into all sorts during your travels, peasants sharing their meager fires, monks muttering Zen riddles that make your head spin, even a stray dog or two that tags along for scraps before wandering off. Remember that first duel at 13? The raw thrill of it? It echoes in every challenge now, but amplified, your senses tuned to the subtlest shifts, the way an opponent's breath hitches, the flicker of doubt in their eyes. You're not just fighting bodies, you're dismantling spirits, leaving egos bruised and reputations in tatters. Towns start whispering your name like a ghost story. Musashi the Wanderer, the boy who fights like a demon and vanishes like smoke. Another joke to keep things light. What's a ronin's favorite bedtime story? One where the hero doesn't need a castle to sleep in, just a sword for a pillow. You're living that story, your cloak doubling as blanket and napkin, the road your endless companion. Lords try to recruit you along the way, dangling promises of gold, armor, even a warm bed. You bow, sort of, and keep walking, because tying yourself to someone else's war feels like dulling your edge. You're here to master the sword on your terms, or not at all. The seasons blur as you roam, spring rains turning paths to mud, summer heat baking your skin, autumn leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones. Each duel adds a layer to you, a parry learned from a spearman in Kyoto's outskirts, a feint stolen from a bandit who got too cocky. You're evolving, your style raw and unorthodox, baffling the traditionalists who cling to their dojo forms like sacred texts. You don't read books, you read people, predicting their moves before they make them, turning every encounter into a step towards something bigger. One more joke before we drift on. Why did the wandering samurai avoid inns? Because he preferred his rooms with a view of the stars and no checkout time. You're embracing that life, the freedom intoxicating even as hunger gnaws at you. The road's harsh, but it's yours, forging you into a legend one dusty step at a time. Villages fade behind you, new horizons beckon, and deep down, you know this wandering isn't just escape, it's destiny, calling you to carve your path through steel and soul. You're deep into your wandering now, the roads of Japan blurring into an endless ribbon of dust and hardship, but there's something about you that sets you apart from the polished samurai, strutting through towns like they own the sunrise. You don't look the part at all. No oiled hair tied in a neat topknot, no armor gleaming under the sun like a mirror for their egos, no swords tucked perfectly at your hip like fancy decorations. Nope, you show up looking like you've been wrestling wild boars for fun, your hair a tangled mess whipping in the wind, your clothes torn and stained with mud, sweat, and who knows what else from the last river crossing. Your feet are calloused, probably muddy up to your ankles, and you carry that faint scent of campfire smoke mixed with the earthy tang of the wilderness. It's not pretty, but it's you, raw, unfiltered, like a wolf that wandered out of the forest and decided to pick up a sword along the way. People notice. Oh, they do. At first, they laugh when you stroll into a village or dojo, figuring you're some beggar or lost peasant, better suited to chasing stray chickens than challenging warriors. Who's this scruffy wanderer? They whisper, smirking behind their hands as you issue a challenge. But that laughter dies quick when you draw your blade, because beneath the dirt and dishevelment, you're terrifyingly efficient. No wasted moves, no fancy flourishes, just pure predatory precision. You move like the wind through bamboo, fast and unforgiving, your strikes landing with the crack of thunder. Opponents who expected an easy win find themselves on the ground, staring up at the sky, wondering how a man who looks half feral could dismantle them so cleanly. It's not dishonorable, it's survival, the kind where battles are won by walking away breathing, not by who poses the prettiest. Your style unnerves them more than any polished armor ever could. Traditional samurai dance around in duels, trading cuts like it's a ceremony, all bows and haikus before the blood. You go straight for the kill ugly if it has to be, but always final. You size them up in a heartbeat, spotting the hesitation in their stance, the fear flickering in their eyes like a candle in the breeze. Then you strike, your sword an extension of that wild energy, turning their pride into dust. Rumors start swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust. He fights like a demon, no mercy, no warning. Villages pass your name around over flickering campfires, and cheap sake turning you into a living ghost story. If you see a disheveled man with eyes like a predator, run the other way, he's not human. Here's the canonical event. Around 1600, during your early ronin days, you challenge and defeat Tadashima Akiyama, a skilled swordsman from Tajima province, in a duel that cements your reputation as an unpredictable force. It's not just a win, it's a statement. You taking down a respected fighter with that same feral efficiency, leaving witnesses stunned and spreading tales of your wild prowess far beyond the battlefield. Historians still debate whether this duel was a planned challenge or a spontaneous clash sparked by Akiyama underestimating your ragged appearance. But either way, it's a pivotal moment that shifts whispers about you from curiosity to outright fear. An odd detail from those times. Legend claims you once showed up to a duel barefoot, your toes sinking into the cold morning dew on the grass, while your opponent fussed with his perfectly laced sandals. True or exaggerated, it fits the image of you as someone who fights on nature's terms, not society's, turning even the ground underfoot into an ally. You don't care about the stares or the snickers. You're too focused on the fight, the way the air hums with tension, the metallic tang of drawn steel, mixing with the scent of blooming cherry blossoms nearby. Every duel feels alive, sensory overload, the sweat beading on your brow, the rough grip of your sword hilt, the sharp intake of breath from the crowd as you move. Let's slip in a joke to lighten the mood. Why did the wild ronin never win beauty contests? Because he was always too busy winning duels. Instead, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but victory's in the swing of the sword. You're not out for laughs, though. You're honing that edge, turning every encounter into a mirror for your own growth. Opponents come at you with their rigid forms, learned in stuffy dojos, but you adapt like water around rocks, flowing where they're stiff, striking where they're weak. It's psychological, too. That unkempt look throws them off, makes them doubt before the blades even cross. You become the wolf among sheep, your presence alone enough to make seasoned warriors second-guess their stance. Another joke to keep things breezy. What's a scruffy samurai's favorite hairstyle? The "I just fought a bear and won" look practical, intimidating, and zero maintenance required. You embody that. Your wild mane flying as you dodge and weave. Your efficiency turning duels into lessons for anyone watching. The polished ones mutter about disrespecting tradition, sipping their tea in fine robes. But you're out here surviving, winning, evolving. Fear follows you like a shadow now. Villages bolting doors at the sight of a disheveled wanderer. Dojos bracing for the storm you bring. You're not just fighting men. You're fighting expectations, shattering the idea that a warrior needs shine to be deadly. One more joke before we push on. Why did the wolf warrior avoid mirrors? Because he didn't need reflection. He got enough from the stunned faces of his defeated opponents. You press forward, the road calling you deeper into Japan's heart, each step leaving echoes of that terrifying grace. The wind whispers your name, carrying tales of the man who looks like chaos, but fights like a precision blade. Sensory details cling to you, the cool rush of river water on your skin during a quick wash, the bitter bite of wild herbs you chew to stave off hunger, the distant clang of temple bells, reminding you there's more to life than steel. But for now, the duels define you, each one sharpening that wolf inside, making you fiercer, deadlier, a legend in ragged clothes. Your efficiency isn't just physical, it's mental, a quiet storm brewing behind those sharp eyes. Opponents crumble under the weight of your gaze, that steady stare saying you've already won in your mind. You're becoming something rarer than a master swordsman, a force that unnerves before it strikes, a wanderer whose appearance is your first weapon. The world shifts around you, samurai polishing their egos while you polish your edge in the dirt. You keep moving, the horizon endless, the path yours alone. You're knee-deep in the wandering life now, the roads of Japan unfurling like a never-ending scroll painted with dust, sweat, and the occasional splash of blood from a fresh duel. Each step carries you further from Miyamoto's familiar dirt, deeper into a world where every town hides a dojo, every shadow a potential challenger, and every victory a lesson etched into your bones. You're not just drifting aimlessly, you're turning the entire country into your personal training ground, challenging strangers to deadly dances that sharpen your edge with every clash. It's a simple rhythm. Walk into a new place, sniff out the local swordsman with the biggest ego, issue a challenge that raises eyebrows, and then, well, let the blades do the talking. You collect wins like some folks collect seashells, but yours come with bruises and insights instead of pretty patterns. The air hums with the scent of pine and distant rain as you approach yet another village, your feet sinking into the soft, loamy path, worn smooth by countless travelers before you. You hear the clang of practice swords echoing from a nearby dojo, a sound that pulls you like a magnet, your heart quickening just a touch under that calm exterior. You don't announce yourself with fanfare, no heralds blowing trumpets or scrolls unfurled with your name in fancy ink. Nope, you just saunter in, looking like you've been dragged through a hedge backward, and mutter a challenge to their top student. They size you up, smirking at your ragged cloak and wild hair, thinking this'll be over quick. But you're already reading them the way their grip tightens on the hilt, the subtle shift in their weight that screams overconfidence. The duel kicks off with a rush of adrenaline, the wooden swords cracking like thunder, your senses alive to every detail, the sting of sweat in your eyes, the gritty feel of dirt underfoot, the sharp, metallic tang hanging in the air, even without real steel. You win, of course, leaving your opponent sprawled and gasping, ego more battered than body. But here's the thing: you don't gloat or strut. You nod once, maybe offer a gruff word about their footwork, and move on, the lesson sinking in, deep. Every fight teaches you something new, a parry you hadn't considered, a feint that almost caught you off guard. The way pride makes even skilled fighters predictable. You're like a sponge soaked in blood and sweat, absorbing techniques from every corner of Japan, your style evolving into something raw and unstoppable. Dojos start to dread your arrival, masters whispering warnings to their pupils about the wild ronin who turns up unannounced and leaves with their secrets tucked under his belt. Let's pause for a joke to keep that ASMR vibe rolling. Why did the wandering swordsman never get lost? Because every path led to a duel, and he always knew how to find his way to victory, one swing at a time. You're not wandering blind, though. You're strategic about it, picking challenges that push you from coastal towns, where the sea salt crusts your skin, to mountain villages, where the thin air makes every breath a test. One duel stands out in the haze of your travels. You face off against a group of students in a Kyoto suburb, turning what they thought was a one-on-one into a whirlwind lesson in crowd control. You dodge and weave, your sword a blur, disarming them one by one without breaking a sweat, the crowd murmuring in hushed awe as you walk away unscathed. Here's the canonical event. In 1604, you challenge and defeat the renowned swordsman Shishido Bacon, a master of the kusarigama, a chain sickle weapon that could tangle blades and reap havoc from afar. It's a pivotal clash, you adapting on the fly to his unorthodox style, countering the whipping chain with precise timing and footwork that leaves him humbled. Historians still debate whether this duel was a formal affair arranged through mutual contacts or a spontaneous roadside brawl sparked by your growing fame. But either way, it solidifies your reputation as a duelist who can handle anything thrown at you literally, in Bacon's case. An odd detail from that fight lingers in the tales. They say you used a random branch you picked up nearby to block the Kusarigama's chain, wrapping it around the wood and yanking Bacon off balance like you were playing some deadly game of tug-of-war. True or embellished by storytellers' oversight, it captures your essence improvising with whatever's at hand, turning the ordinary into a weapon. The sensory rush of it all sticks with you. The whistle of the chain cutting the air, the jolt of impact vibrating up your arms, the metallic clink as it wraps around your makeshift defense. You walk away with a new respect for unconventional arms, incorporating bits of that adaptability into your own growing arsenal. Another joke to ease into the night. What's a ronin's favorite hobby? Collecting victories before lunch, because nothing beats a good duel to work up an appetite, though you'd settle for rice over regrets. You press on, the road, a relentless teacher, each mile pounding resilience into your souls. Villages blur together, but the duels stand out sharp. One in a rainy field where mud slicks your grip, forcing you to rely on balance over brute force. Another under a full moon, shadows playing tricks that hone your instincts. You learn not just about swords, but about people, their fears telegraphed in trembling hands, their arrogance in wide stances. It's psychological warfare as much as physical. You dismantling spirits before bodies hit the ground. The wins pile up, your record looking ridiculous. More victories than the number of mosquito bites you've swatted on those humid summer nights. But you're not in it for the tally. You're dueling for evolution. Each bruise a badge, each miss a revelation. Opponents range from cocky dojo heirs to grizzled veterans, all falling to your unpredictable style. You don't fight by the book because you've never cracked one open. You write your own rules, mid-swing, brutal and efficient. Sometimes you use a real katana, its edge humming with promise. Other times, a wooden stick suffices, proving it's the mind behind the weapon that counts. One more joke before we drift deeper. Why did the swordsman bring a notebook to his duels? To jot down lessons learned, though in your case, it's all mental notes, because who has time for ink when you're dodging death? The road keeps calling, dusty trails giving way to forested paths where the rustle of leaves masks approaching footsteps. You eat sparingly, the crunch of wild apples or the chewy bite of dried fish fueling your endless quest. Nights find you under stars, the cool grass a bed, your sword a pillow, replaying fights in your mind like a strategist over a go board. Every victory shapes you, but so do the near misses, those heart-pounding moments where a split-second decision saves your skin. By your late teens, whispers precede you. The wild ronin with a blade sharper than wit, leaving trails of humbled egos. You nod at the tales, but don't linger. There's always the next town, the next dojo, the next lesson waiting in the haze of dawn. The sensory tapestry weaves on, the warm glow of lantern light spilling from inns you pass by, the bitter sip of stolen tea to warm your bones, the distant toll of a temple bell reminding you life's more than steel. You're becoming unstoppable, not for fame, but for that quiet thrill of mastery, one duel at a time. You're a rogue wave crashing through the structured world of samurai Japan, a masterless ronin who's turned down every offer of gold, glory, and cushy castle life. Lords with silk robes and polished promises try to rope you into their service land. Horses, even a daughter or two, tossed into the deal like a bonus rice ball. You bow, sort of, your ragged cloak flapping in the breeze, and keep walking. Why tie yourself to a lord's leash when the open road is your dojo, the wind your master, and every duel a chance to carve your own path? In a world obsessed with status, where samurai pledge their blades to warlords like it's a sacred vow, you're a walking scandal, a man who answers only to himself, his sword, and the stubborn beat of his own heart. Freedom's your sharpest weapon, and you wield it like a katana, cutting through expectations with every dusty step. The life of a ronin isn't exactly a stroll through cherry blossoms. You sleep under pines, the needles pricking your back, the night air sharp with frost or thick with summer's hum. You eat what you can scrounge, wild plums that pucker your mouth, fish speared from streams with a stick you sharpened on a rock. Maybe a stolen dumpling from a distracted vendor if you're feeling bold. Your clothes are more patches than fabric, your sandals worn to threads, but you don't care. The hunger, the cold, the endless miles, they're all part of the forge, tempering you into something no lord's gold could ever craft. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, a blade being honed against the rough stone of the world. Villages you pass through buzz with your name, half whispered like a ghost story. Musashi, the wild one, the ronin who humbles dojo masters and walks away whistling. You challenge anyone who looks like they might teach you something: swordsman, spearman, even the occasional monk with a staff and a smug grin. They expect a polished samurai, all ceremony and form. You give them chaos, your strikes fast and unorthodox, your mind always one step ahead. You're not here to play by their rules, you're rewriting them mid-fight, turning their strengths into weaknesses. A dojo in Osaka learns this the hard way when you disarm their top student with a flick of your wrist, leaving him blinking in the dust while the master sputters about dishonor. You shrug. Honor's nice, but survival's better. Here's the canonical event. Around 1601, you defeat Jian Toji, a renowned swordsman of the Sengoku Japan school in Kyoto, in a duel that showcases your refusal to bow to tradition. Toji, trained in one of Japan's most prestigious styles, comes at you with textbook precision, expecting to school a scruffy wanderer. You counter his elegance with raw adaptability, dodging his strikes and landing a blow that sends him reeling, proving that a ronin's freedom trumps a dojo's dogma. Historians still debate whether you sought out Toji to test Sengoku Ryu's techniques, or simply stumbled into the duel after a heated exchange. But the outcome is clear. Another notch in your legend, another master left humbled. An odd detail floats through the tales. They say you fought Toji with a wooden sword you'd carved yourself. So rough, it still had bits of bark clinging to it, a stark contrast to his gleaming katana. True or not, it's a perfect snapshot of you, unpolished, practical, and devastatingly effective. The sensory details of that duel linger. The sharp crack of wood meeting steel, the faint scent of cedar in the air, the crowd's collective gasp as Toji hits the ground. You walk away, your cloak catching the breeze, leaving whispers in your wake, and a lesson for anyone watching. Tradition's a cage, and you're not here to be tamed. Let's toss in a joke to keep the vibe loose. Why did the ronin skip the Lord's banquet? Because he'd rather feast on freedom than dine on someone else's orders. Plus, the steak's better when you steal it. You're not laughing, though. You're too busy moving, the road your only constant. Every duel sharpens you, but it's the refusals, the lords, the titles, the easy life that define you. You could have had a castle, servants, a name sewn into silk banners. Instead, you choose the stars for a roof, the blade for a companion, the endless horizon for a home. It's not stubbornness, it's clarity. You're not here to serve anyone's war. You're here to master something bigger, yourself. Another joke to lighten the dusty trail. What's a ronin's favorite accessory? Not a fancy scabbard, just a second sword, because one's never enough for a fight or a story. You're starting to experiment with that idea, wielding a katana and wakizashi together, baffling opponents, trained to expect a single blade. It's clumsy at first, your hands tripping over each other like a drunk dancer, but you practice under moonlight, the cool grass underfoot, the distant hoot of an owl keeping time. Slowly, it clicks a rhythm no dojo teaches, a style that's yours alone. It's another way you defy the norm, turning heads and breaking rules with every swing. The sensory world wraps around you like a cloak, the bitter tang of wild herbs chewed to dull hunger, the low hum of cicadas on humid nights, the rough grain of your sword's hilt against your palm. You meet all sorts peasants offering a bowl of rice out of pity, bandits who learn quick that you're no easy mark, children trailing you like you're a walking myth. "Is that him?" they whisper, pointing at your muddy feet. You nod, maybe toss them a grin, but keep moving. The road doesn't care about fame, and neither do you. Every step, every duel is about becoming sharper, wiser, freer. One more joke before we push on. Why did the masterless samurai avoid poetry contests? Because his verses were all written in steel, and nobody wanted to judge a blade. You're writing your own epic, though not in ink, but in motion. Each challenge a stanza in a saga only you can pen. The samurai world clings to its hierarchies, its polished armor and rigid codes. But you're a wildfire, burning through their expectations, leaving scorched pride and whispered legends behind. The road stretches on, and you walk it, untamed, unbound, a ronin carving his own destiny, one defiant step at a time. You're a rogue wave crashing through the structured world of samurai Japan, a masterless ronin who's turned down every offer of gold, glory, and cushy castle life. Lords, with silk robes and polished promises, try to rope you into their service land. Horses, even a daughter or two, tossed into the deal like a bonus rice ball. You bow, sort of, your ragged cloak flapping in the breeze, and keep walking. Why tie yourself to a lord's leash when the open road is your dojo, the wind your master, and every duel a chance to carve your own path? In a world obsessed with status, where samurai pledge their blades to warlords like it's a sacred vow, you're a walking scandal, a man who answers only to himself, his sword, and the stubborn beat of his own heart. Freedom's your sharpest weapon, and you wield it like a katana, cutting through expectations with every dusty step. The life of a ronin isn't exactly a stroll through cherry blossoms. You sleep under pines, the needles pricking your back, the night air sharp with frost or thick with summer's hum. You eat what you can, scrounge wild plums that pucker your mouth, fish speared from streams with a stick you sharpened on a rock, maybe a stolen dumpling from a distracted vendor if you're feeling bold. Your clothes are more patches than fabric, your sandals worn to threads, but you don't care. The hunger, the cold, the endless miles, they're all part of the forge, tempering you into something no lord's gold could ever craft. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, a blade being honed against the rough stone of the world. Villages you pass through buzz with your name, half whispered like a ghost story. Musashi, the wild one, the ronin who humbles dojo masters and walks away, whistling. You challenge anyone who looks like they might teach you something. Swordsman, spearmen, even the occasional monk with a staff and a smug grin. They expect a polished samurai, all ceremony and form. You give them chaos, your strikes fast and unorthodox, your mind always one step ahead. You're not here to play by their rules. You're rewriting them mid-fight, turning their strengths into weaknesses. A dojo in Osaka learns this the hard way when you disarm their top student with a flick of your wrist, leaving him blinking in the dust while the master sputters about dishonor. You shrug. Honor's nice, but survival's better. Here's the canonical event. Around 1601, you defeat Jian Toji, a renowned swordsman of the Sengoku school in Kyoto, in a duel that showcases your refusal to bow to tradition. Toji, trained in one of Japan's most prestigious styles, comes at you with textbook precision, expecting to school a scruffy wanderer. You counter his elegance with raw adaptability, dodging his strikes and landing a blow that sends him reeling, proving that a ronin's freedom trumps a dojo's dogma. Historians still debate whether you sought out Toji to test Shinkage, Ryu's techniques, or simply stumbled into the duel after a heated exchange, but the outcome is clear. Another notch in your legend, another master left, humbled. An odd detail floats through the tales. They say you fought Toji with a wooden sword you'd carved yourself, so rough it still had bits of bark clinging to it, a stark contrast to his gleaming katana. True or not, it's a perfect snapshot of you, unpolished, practical, and devastatingly effective. The sensory details of that duel linger. The sharp crack of wood meeting steel, the faint scent of cedar in the air, the crowd's collective gasp as Toji hits the ground. You walk away, your cloak catching the breeze, leaving whispers in your wake and a lesson for anyone watching. Tradition's a cage, and you're not here to be tamed. Let's toss in a joke to keep the vibe loose. Why did the ronin skip the Lord's banquet? Because he'd rather feast on freedom than dine on someone else's orders. Plus, the steak's better when you steal it. You're not laughing, though. You're too busy moving, the road your only constant. Every duel sharpens you, but it's the refusals, the lords, the titles, the easy life that define you. You could have had a castle, servants, a name sewn into silk banners. Instead, you choose the stars for a roof, the blade for a companion, the endless horizon for a home. It's not stubbornness, it's clarity. You're not here to serve anyone's war. You're here to master something bigger, yourself. Another joke to lighten the dusty trail. What's a ronin's favorite accessory? Not a fancy scabbard, just a second sword, because one's never enough for a fight or a story. You're starting to experiment with that idea, wielding a katana and wakizashi together, baffling opponents trained to expect a single blade. It's clumsy at first, your hands tripping over each other like a drunk dancer, but you practice under moonlight, the cool grass underfoot, the distant hoot of an owl keeping time. Slowly, it clicks a rhythm no dojo teaches, a style that's yours alone. It's another way you defy the norm, turning heads and breaking rules with every swing. The sensory world wraps around you like a cloak, the bitter tang of wild herbs chewed to dull hunger, the low hum of cicadas on humid nights, the rough grain of your sword's hilt against your palm. You meet all sorts peasants, offering a bowl of rice out of pity, bandits who learn quick that you're no easy mark, children trailing you like you're a walking myth. Is that him? They whisper, pointing at your muddy feet. You nod, maybe toss them a grin, but keep moving. The road doesn't care about fame, and neither do you. Every step, every duel is about becoming sharper, wiser, freer. One more joke before we push on. Why did the masterless samurai avoid poetry contests? Because his verses were all written in steel, and nobody wanted to judge a blade. You're writing your own epic, though not in ink, but in motion. Each challenge, a stanza in a saga only you can pen. The samurai world clings to its hierarchies, its polished armor and rigid codes. But you're a wildfire, burning through their expectations, leaving scorched pride and whispered legends behind. The road stretches on, and you walk it, untamed, unbound, a ronin carving his own destiny, one defiant step at a time. You're a phantom on Japan's dusty roads, a ronin whose name carries the weight of a storm cloud. But it's not your sword alone that makes men tremble. It's your mind. You've learned something sharper than steel. A duel isn't won when blades clash. It's won in the flickering moments before, when doubt creeps into your opponent's eyes like a thief in the night. You're not just fighting bodies anymore. You're dismantling spirits, reading men like open scrolls. The way a samurai shifts his weight, the twitch of his fingers on the hilt, the way his breath catches when you tilt your head just so you see it all, and you use it. Your fights are half over before they start. Your presence, a weapon that cuts deeper than any katana. Your Musashi, the wild ronin, and you're turning psychological warfare into an art form. Picture a duel in a quiet mountain village, the air thick with the scent of pine and distant smoke. The crowd hushed as you face a local champion. He's all polish armor gleaming, stance, textbook, perfect. Probably spent an hour oiling his top knot. You look like you rolled out of a ditch, your cloak frayed, your hair a wild tangle catching the breeze. He smirks, thinking you're a joke. But you lock eyes, your gaze steady, unblinking, like a wolf sizing up a deer. He flinches just a fraction, and you've already won. When the swords meet, it's almost an afterthought. Your bakken cracks against his guard, and he's down, pride shattered, wondering what hit him. You nod, maybe mutter something about keeping his elbows lower, and walk off, the crowd whispering your name like a prayer or a curse. This is your edge. You fight their minds before their blades. You study everything, the way a man's shoulders tense when he's nervous, how his eyes dart when he's planning a feint, the subtle pause before a desperate strike. You don't just react, you predict, moving one step ahead, turning their confidence into quicksand. Some opponents crumble without a swing, surrendering to the weight of your reputation. The stories of the scruffy ronin who humbles masters like it's a morning chore. Others charge in, bravado masking fear, only to find you've already mapped their every move. It's not magic. It's brutal attention to human weakness, honed through years of duels and sleepless nights under starry skies. Here's the canonical event. In 1602, you defeat Niten Ichi-ryu, a skilled swordsman from the Ito-ryu school, in a duel that showcases your mental dominance. Nakamura, known for his aggressive style, comes at you hard, expecting to overwhelm a scruffy wanderer. But you stand calm, your presence unnerving, your eyes reading his every intention. You sidestep his charge, letting him overcommit and land a single, precise strike that drops him. The crowd stunned, not just by the win, but by how effortless it looks, as if you knew his moves before he did. Historians still debate whether you deliberately provoked Nakamura's aggression to unbalance him or simply read him like a book, but the result is the same. Another master down, your legend growing. An odd detail from that duel. They say you fought with a wooden sword you'd whittled that morning. its surface still rough, splinters catching the sunlight as you swung. True or not, it's a fitting image. You don't need polish to win, just a mind sharper than your blade. The sensory details paint the scene. The dry crunch of gravel underfoot, the faint metallic tang of Nakamura's drawn katana, the crowd's collective breath held as you move like a shadow, untouchable. You walk away, the mountain air cool on your skin, leaving another lesson in your wake. Fear is a blade that cuts both ways, and you wield it better than most. Let's slip in a joke to keep things light. Why did the ronin always win at chess? Because he'd already checkmated his opponent's ego before the board was even set. You're not playing games, though. Every duel is a chess match at lightning speed. Your mind, the true weapon. You've learned that a fight's won in the quiet moments, when an opponent hesitates, when their pride blinds them, when they see your ragged figure and underestimate the storm inside. You exploit those moments, turning doubt into defeat with surgical precision. It's why dojos brace when they hear you're near, why samurai tighten their grips when your name's whispered. Another joke to ease the tension. What's a wild swordsman's favorite meditation? Staring down his opponent until they meditate on their life choices, usually right before they lose. You're meditating in your own way. Every duel a chance to refine your instincts, to see deeper into the human soul. The road's your teacher now, its lessons harsh but clear. A bandit's clumsy lunge shows you timing. A monk's staff teaches you patience. A cocky student's bravado reveals the cost of ego. You absorb it all, your style evolving into something fluid, unpredictable, terrifyingly effective. The sensory world fuels you the bitter bite of wild roots you chew to stave off hunger, the low hum of a distant waterfall, the rough grain of your sword's hilt grounding you in the chaos. Your reputation precedes you now, a shadow that darkens doorways before you even arrive. Villages lock up their bravest swordsmen like treasure when you pass through. Dojos warn students to avoid the wild man with eyes that see through souls. But you don't care about fame or fear. You're chasing something else, mastery, not of others, but of yourself. Every duel, every mind, broken before a blade is drawn, brings you closer to that elusive edge. You're not just a ronin anymore. You're a force, a storm that doesn't need to rage to win, it just needs to be. One more joke before we move on. Why did the swordsman skip therapy? Because he worked out his issues by outthinking his opponents, one duel at a time. You keep walking, the road stretching toward new horizons, each step a challenge to the samurai world's rigid codes. The air carries the faint scent of rain, the promise of another duel, another lesson. You're not fighting for glory or gold. You're fighting to understand, to sharpen the blade of your mind. The world watches, whispers, fears, but you just keep moving, a lone figure against the dusk, your shadow longer than your legend, and growing. You're a storm carving through Japan's samurai world, not just with your blade, but with a new kind of madness, a two-sword style that's got traditionalists choking on their sake. You've decided one sword isn't enough, so you wield a katana in one hand and a wakizashi in the other, turning duels into a deadly dance no one's ready for. It's called Niten Ichi-ryu, your own creation, born from sweat-soaked nights swinging at shadows under starlight, the cool grass tickling your feet, the distant howl of a wolf keeping time. At first, it's awkward. Your hands fumble like a drunk juggler, dropping blades, tripping over your own ambition. But you don't quit. You practice in forests, by rivers, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, until it clicks. Two swords, one rhythm, a hurricane of steel that moves like your own heartbeat. Picture a duel in a coastal village, the sea's salty tang mixing with the sweat on your brow, waves crashing like a crowd cheering for blood. Your opponent, a dojo-trained samurai with a single blade and a sneer, expects the usual one sword, one predictable pattern. You step forward, ragged cloak flapping, katana in your right hand, wakizashi in your left, and his eyes widen like he's seen a demon. He swings, precise, textbook. You parry with one blade, strike with the other, a blur of motion that's less fight and more slaughter. He's down before the gulls overhead finish their squawk. The crowd stunned, whispering about the ronin who fights with two hands and no rules. You don't linger to bask. You nod, adjust your grip, and vanish into the dusk, the ocean's roar fading behind you. This is your revolution. Niten Ichi-ryu, the two-sword school, defying centuries of tradition. Single-sword samurai are confused, spearmen frustrated, archers irrelevant before they can nock an arrow. You're not just fighting, you're rewriting the battlefield, making opponents question everything they've been taught. The sensory rush fuels you, the weight of both swords, one heavy, one light, balancing in your hands, the sharp sting of sea air in your lungs, the crunch of sand underfoot as you shift, ready to strike. Your style's not chaos, it's water, flowing around obstacles, carving through resistance with relentless grace. Here's the canonical event. Around 1604, you perfect and demonstrate Niten Ichi-ryu in a duel against Sukahara, Bokuden's disciple, a master swordsman in Kansai whose single-blade mastery crumbles under your dual-wielded assault. You overwhelm him with coordinated strikes, parrying with the wakizashi, while the katana finds its mark, a victory that spreads your unorthodox style's fame like wildfire. Historians still debate whether you developed Niten Ichi-ryu deliberately to counter traditional schools, or if it evolved organically from your relentless experimentation, but the result is undeniable. You've created something new, something terrifyingly effective that no dojo can ignore. An odd detail from that duel. Legend says you fought with a wakizashi you'd sharpened yourself on a river rock, its edge glinting unevenly in the sunlight, a stark contrast to your opponent's polished blade. True or not, it captures you perfectly, raw, resourceful, deadly. The fight's sensory details linger, the low hum of the crowd holding their breath, the faint metallic clink as your swords meet, the bitter taste of adrenaline as you move like a storm breaking over the shore. You walk away, leaving whispers and a new kind of fear in your wake. The ronin who fights with two swords doesn't just win, he redefines victory. Let's toss in a joke to keep the vibe loose. Why did the two-sword samurai never lose at cards? Because he always had an extra ace up his sleeve and a blade in each hand to back it up. You're not playing games, though. You're forging a legacy, one duel at a time. Your two-sword style baffles opponents trained to expect predictable patterns. They prepare for a single threat. You give them two, striking and defending in a rhythm that's yours alone. It's not just skill, it's psychology. Your unorthodox approach sowing doubt before the fight even starts. You're not bound by dojo rules or samurai codes. You're bound by what works, what wins. Another joke to lighten the dusty trail. What's a dual-wielding ronin's favorite dance? The two-step, because it takes two swords to really cut up the floor. You're dancing through Japan now. Each duel a step in your evolution. The road's lessons are relentless. A spearman's thrust teaches you timing. A monk's staff forces you to adapt. A bandit's ambush hones your instincts. You practice Niten Ichi-ryu under moonlight. The cool night air sharpen your lungs. The distant chirp of crickets, your only audience. It's clumsy at first. Your hands fight each other as much as your opponent, but you grind through. Each swing smoother, each parry sharper, until it's second nature. The sensory world wraps around you. The rough hemp of your cloak brushing your shoulders. The bitter tang of wild berries you eat to dull hunger. The faint toll of a temple bell carried on the wind. You meet wanderers like you, peasants sharing rice, swordsmen seeking fame, children trailing you like you're a myth come to life. "Is that the two-sword man?" they whisper, eyes wide. You grin, maybe toss them a nod, but keep moving. Fame's a shadow, mastery's the light you chase. Every duel refines you, your two blades an extension of your will, cutting through tradition like a blade through silk. One more joke before we push on. Why did the ronin bring two swords to a poetry reading? Because his verses cut deeper when they're backed by steel, literally. You're writing your own saga, not in ink, but in motion. Each duel a verse in a poem no one else can pen. The samurai world clings to its single-blade dogmas, but you're a tidal wave, washing away their certainties. Niten Ichi-ryu isn't just a style, it's a rebellion, a declaration that adaptability, not ancestry, is the true mark of a warrior. The road stretches on, the horizon calling, and you walk it, two swords at your side, a storm in human form, carving your path through a world too rigid to keep up. You're a storm on legs, sweeping into Kyoto, the cultural heart of Japan, where silk robes and polished egos strut through streets lined with cherry blossoms and smug tradition. You've got no business being here, at least not by the standards of the samurai elite. You're a ronin, a masterless drifter with a wild mane and a cloak that's seen better days, carrying two swords and a reputation that makes dojo masters sweat under their starched kimonos. But you're not here for tea ceremonies or courtly bows. You're here to challenge the untouchable, the Yoshioka school, a name so heavy in Kyoto it might as well be carved in stone. They're not just a dojo, they're an institution, training samurai who guard lords and shape the city's sword-wielding pride. And you're about to kick their foundation out from under them. Picture the scene. You stroll into their dojo, the air thick with incense and the faint clack of practiced swords. Your muddy sandals leaving smudges on their pristine floor. The students stare, half amused, half offended, at this scruffy wanderer daring to challenge their master, Yoshioka Seijuro. He's a big deal head of the school, trained to perfection. His katana probably worth more than your entire existence. They expect a quick lesson in humility for you, a public spanking to remind everyone that wild ronin don't belong in Kyoto's polished world. You stand calm, your two swords at your side, eyes steady like a wolf watching a herd. Seijuro accepts your challenge, his pride as sharp as his blade, and the duel is set. The city buzzes, bets are placed, sake flows, and the air hums with anticipation, the scent of spring blooms mixing with the tension of coming violence. When the day arrives, you face Seijuro in an open courtyard, the crowd thick with samurai, merchants, and curious townsfolk clutching grilled fish skewers like it's a festival. He's all elegance, his stance textbook, his sword gleaming like it's ready to star in a poem. You're a mess hair wild, cloak tattered, your wooden bakken looking like you carved it with a dull rock. He moves first, a clean, precise strike meant to end this fast. You don't dance or dodge prettily. You explode. Niten Ichi-ryu in full force, katana and wakizashi moving like twin storms. One parry, one strike, and Seijuro's down. His pride cracked louder than his ribs. The crowd gasps, fish skewers forgotten, as Kyoto's golden boy lies humbled by a feral drifter. You don't gloat, you nod once, tug your cloak tighter, and melt into the city's alleys, leaving whispers sharper than any blade. Here's the canonical event. In 1604, you defeat Yoshioka Seijuro, head of the prestigious Yoshioka school, in a duel at Kyoto's Rendaiji Temple, shaking the samurai world's foundations. It's not just a win, it's a seismic shock. A nobody dismantling an elite institution's pride in front of Kyoto's gossip-hungry elite. Historians still debate whether you targeted the Yoshioka to test your Niten Ichi-ryu against their renowned style, or simply saw Seijuro as another step toward mastery. But the outcome is clear. You've cracked their legacy, and the city feels it like an earthquake. An odd detail from the tales. They say you showed up to the duel late, not out of disrespect, but because you were napping under a tree nearby, your cloak doubling as a blanket. True or not, it fits you're not here for their schedules or their rules, just the fight. The sensory details linger. The faint scent of temple incense in the air, the smooth grain of your bakken against your palm, the crowd's stunned silence broken only by the rustle of cherry blossoms falling in the breeze. You walk away, the taste of victory, sharp but fleeting, like a sip of stolen tea on a cold morning. Let's toss in a joke to keep the vibe light. Why did the ronin crash the fancy dojo? Because he heard they were serving free lessons and he brought his own swords to teach. You're not here for laughs, though. You're rewriting the samurai script, showing Kyoto that skill beats status every time. The Yoshioka defeat stings their pride like salt in a wound, and you know they won't let it slide. Their school's reputation is everything, and you've just painted a target on it and yourself. But you don't flinch. You've been outthinking opponents since you were 13, and this is just another duel, another lesson, another step towards something bigger. Another joke to ease the tension. What's a wild swordsman's favorite city? Kyoto, because it's got the best dojos to humble and the worst traffic to dodge. You're dodging more than traffic now, though rumors swirl that the Yoshioka are plotting revenge. Their egos too bruised to accept defeat gracefully. You keep moving, the city's lantern-lit streets fading behind you, the road calling once more. The sensory world grounds you, the cool weight of your two swords at your hip, the faint bitterness of wild greens you chew to keep hunger at bay, the distant clatter of carts, reminding you Kyoto's alive with schemes and swords. The Yoshioka loss sends ripples beyond the city. Other schools whisper about you now, some in fear, some in challenge, all in awe. You're not just a ronin anymore. You're a force, a blade that cuts through tradition like paper. You don't fight for fame or to settle scores. You fight to evolve, each duel sharpening your mind, your body, your soul. The crowd's cheers or gasps mean nothing. It's the quiet clarity after a win, the moment you know you're one step closer to mastery, that keeps you moving. You're not bound by Kyoto's rules or the samurai world's expectations. You're bound by something fiercer, the need to be better, sharper, unstoppable. One more joke before we push on. Why did the two-sword ronin skip the tea ceremony? Because his idea of balance was wielding a blade in each hand, not sipping from a cup. You're balancing plenty, though freedom and danger skill and instinct, the weight of a growing legend against the hunger for something more. The road ahead promises more duels, more enemies, and probably more bruised egos in Kyoto's high society. You walk on, the city's glow fading into the dusk, your shadow stretching long and wild, a storm brewing in human form, ready to strike again. You've left Kyoto's cherry blossoms and bruised egos behind, but the Yoshioka school's pride is a wound that festers, and they're not about to let a scruffy ronin like you walk away with their honor in tatters. Your defeat of Seijiro, their golden boy, was a crack in their foundation, and now they're sending in the heavy artillery. Yoshioka Denshichiro, Seijiro's brother, bigger, angrier, and itching to erase the family's shame with your blood. The city's alive with the news, buzzing like a kicked beehive, bets flying faster than sake cups at a festival. You're Musashi, the wild storm who tore through their dojo, and they think Denshichiro's the wall that'll stop you. They're wrong, but you don't say it. You just sharpen your blades, your senses drinking in the world, the faint tang of charcoal smoke in Kyoto's air, the rough hemp of your cloak brushing your shoulders, the distant clink of a blacksmith's hammer echoing like a war drum. The duel's set, a public spectacle in a wide field outside the city, the ground soft with spring mud that squelches under your sandals, the crowd's thick samurai in crisp robes, merchants hawking grilled eel to spectators, even a few monks muttering prayers for someone's soul, probably Denshichiro's. He strides in like a thundercloud, armor polished to a mirror shine, his katana heavy with purpose. You? You're the same old Musashi hair wild as a crow's nest, 2 swords at your hip, looking like you just wandered out of a forest brawl. The crowd snickers, expecting a repeat of Seijiro's fall, but hoping for bloodier drama. You stand calm, your eyes locked on Denshichiro, reading him like a storm reads the sea. The tension in his shoulders screaming rage, the tight grip on his sword whispering fear beneath the bravado. When it starts, Denshichiro doesn't waste time with finesse. He charges, his blade a blur of raw power, aiming to crush you like a boulder rolling downhill. You move lighter, faster, your Niten Ichi-ryu singing, katana parrying, wakizashi striking, a dance of steel that's all instinct and precision. Mud flies, the air hums with the clash of blades, and then it's over. One devastating blow, your katana finding its mark, and Denshichiro's down, his armor dented, his pride shattered louder than the crowd's gasp. You don't linger, no speeches, no bows, just a quick tug of your cloak, and you're gone, melting into the horizon as Kyoto reels from another Yoshioka defeat, the scent of crushed grass and spilled sake lingering in the air. Here's the canonical event. In 1604, you defeat Yoshioka Denshichiro in a duel at Ichijoji Temple's grounds, further dismantling the Yoshioka school's reputation. It's not just another win. It's a death blow to their legacy. A second heir, humbled by a ronin who fights like a force of nature. Historians still debate whether Denshichiro's duel was a desperate bid to restore family honor or a calculated move to trap you, but the outcome is undeniable. You've left Kyoto's elite school teetering, their name now synonymous with defeat at your hands. An odd detail from the tales. They say you fought with a bokken so worn it was splintering, pieces flying with each swing like tiny arrows, mocking Denshichiro's polished gear. True or not, it's pure Musashi, turning flaws into weapons, thriving where others falter. The sensory details paint the scene. The slick mud gripping your feet, the sharp sting of sweat in your eyes, the crowd's roar fading to a stunned murmur as Denshichiro falls. You walk away, the cool spring breeze drying your skin, the taste of victory, sharp but familiar, like biting into a wild apple after a long march. Let's toss in a joke to keep things light. Why did the ronin skip the rematch invitations? Because he'd already sent the whole family to the loser's table, no need for seconds. You're not laughing, though. You know the Yoshioka aren't done. Their pride's a raw wound now, and you can smell their desperation like rain on the wind. You keep moving. The road, your only ally, its dusty trails leading you away from Kyoto's scheming streets. The sensory world grounds you. The bitter crunch of dried fish you chew to keep going. The low hum of cicadas as dusk falls. The weight of your two swords, a steady reminder of who you are. The Yoshioka defeat sends shockwaves beyond Kyoto's walls. Other schools whisper your name with a mix of fear and grudging respect, their masters drilling students harder in case you show up. You're not just a duelist now. You're a legend in the making, a storm that humbles the untouchable. But you don't care about the whispers or the bets placed on your next fight. You're chasing mastery, not fame, each duel a step toward something sharper, deeper. The crowd's cheers mean nothing. It's the quiet after the fight, when your mind replays every move, that fuels you. You're not here to be Kyoto's hero or villain. You're here to be Musashi, unbound, unstoppable. Another joke. To ease the tension, what's a wild swordsman's favorite game? Whack a Yoshioka. Because they keep lining up, and you keep knocking them down. You're dodging more than just blades now. Though rumors swirl that the Yoshioka are plotting something darker, their honor traded for vengeance. You keep your senses sharp, the road's lessons clear. Trust your instincts, read the air, stay one step ahead. The sensory tapestry weaves on, the cool rush of a stream where you wash blood from your hands, the faint glow of fireflies as you camp under stars, the distant bark of a dog, warning of strangers nearby. One more joke before we push on. Why did the two-sword ronin avoid fancy armor? Because his best defense was making his enemies miss, and his best offense was their bruised egos. You're walking that fine line now, freedom and danger intertwined, your legend growing with every step. The Yoshioka's fall is a warning to Japan's samurai. No school, no name, no tradition is safe from you. The road stretches toward new challenges, new enemies, and probably a very angry Yoshioka clan plotting in the shadows. You walk on, the dusk swallowing your shadow, a storm brewing in human form, ready for whatever comes next. You've left Kyoto's elite Yoshioka school in shambles, their pride bleeding out after you felled both Seijiro and Denshichiro like trees in a typhoon. But a wounded beast is dangerous, and the Yoshioka aren't ready to limp away quietly. Their honor's a bonfire they've tossed their dignity into, and now they're plotting a final, desperate strike. Not a fair duel, but an ambush to bury you under a hail of blades. They set the trap with Yoshioka Shichiro, a young heir barely old enough to shave, as bait, luring you to a formal duel at Ichijoji Temple's grounds. The real plan? Dozens of their swordsmen hiding in the twilight, ready to swarm you the moment you show up. It's dirty, dishonorable, but after two dead brothers, fair play's a luxury they can't afford. You, though, you smell the trap from a mile away, like rotten fish on the wind, and you're already 3 steps ahead. Picture the scene. Dusk cloaks Kyoto in a misty haze, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and blooming camellias. the faint toll of a temple bell cutting through the silence. You arrive early, your sandals silent on the soft grass, your two swords at your hip, eyes scanning the shadows where you know they're waiting. The Yoshioka expect you to strut in like a cocky ronin, ripe for the slaughter. Instead, you move like a phantom, your cloak blending with the twilight, your senses sharp the rustle of a leaf under a hidden swordsman's foot, the glint of steel betraying their positions. Matashikiro stands alone in the clearing, a nervous boy, gripping a blade too big for him, head, his eyes, darting fear. You don't waste words. One strike, clean and swift, and he's down, a gasp escaping his lips as his sword falls uselessly into the dirt. Chaos explodes like a kicked hornet's nest. The Yoshioka's men pour from their hiding spots, dozens, maybe 50, their shouts splitting the air, swords flashing like angry stars in the dusk. You don't freeze or falter. You move, a blur of Niten Ichi-ryu, katana and wakizashi, singing in unison, cutting through their ranks with surgical precision. It's not a duel, it's survival. A whirlwind of steel and instinct, your senses alive to every detail, the slick warmth of blood on your hands, the sharp sting of steel grazing your arm, the panicked cries of men realizing their traps become their tomb. You slip through their blades, striking and vanishing into the mist, a ghost they can't pin down. By the time the dust settles, you're gone. The Yoshioka left broken, their school collapsing into disgrace, the air thick with the scent of defeat and the stunned silence of a crowd that expected your corpse, not theirs. Here's a canonical event. In 1604, you outwit and dismantle the Yoshioka school's ambush at Ichijoji Temple, defeating Matashikiro and his hidden swordsmen in a one-against-many clash that ends their legacy. It's not just a victory, it's a masterclass in strategy, you turning their numbers against them, proving no trap can hold a ronin who reads the battlefield like a mind of the gods. Historians still debate whether you knew the ambush through spies or pure instinct, but the outcome is undeniable. You've crushed an elite school, leaving Kyoto's samurai world reeling from your audacity. An odd detail from the tales. They say you used a single bokken for most of the fight, its wood slick with blood, swinging it with such force that some swore it hummed like a drawn bowstring. True or not, it's pure Musashi, turning a simple tool into a weapon, thriving in chaos where others crumble. The sensory details etch the scene. The cool mist dampening your skin, the metallic tang of blood in the air, the soft thud of bodies hitting the grass as you carve through. You walk away, your breath steady, the taste of adrenaline sharp but fading like a sip of bitter green tea after a storm's passed. Let's toss in a joke to keep things light. Why did the ronin show up early to the ambush? Because he wanted to crash the party before the snacks ran out. Swords first, of course. You're not here for laughs, though. You're rewriting the samurai code, showing Kyoto that numbers mean nothing against a mind like yours. The Yoshioka's collapse sends shockwaves through Japan dojos. Bolt their doors. Masters drill students harder, fearing the wild ronin who turns traps into triumphs. You don't care about their fear or their whispers. You're chasing mastery, each duel a chisel carving you sharper, cleaner, closer to something untouchable. Another joke to ease the tension. What's a wild swordsman's favorite trap? One, he can spring himself, because nothing beats turning the hunter into the hunted. You're moving on now, the road calling, its dusty trails leading away from Kyoto's blood-soaked schemes. The sensory world wraps you tight. the bitter crunch of wild roots you chew to keep hunger at bay, the low hum of a distant stream, the weight of your two swords grounding you in the chaos. You've outthought an entire school, outfought an army, and walked away untouched, not unscathed, but unbroken. The Yoshioka's fall is a warning to Japan's elite. No name, no school, no tradition is safe from you. Other swordsmen hear the tales, their hands tightening on their hilts, wondering if they're next. You're not hunting them, though you're hunting something deeper, a truth only the blade can teach. The crowd's gasps, the bets, the legends sprouting like weeds, their noise, nothing more. It's the quiet after the fight, when your mind replays every move that matters. You're not Kyoto's villain or hero. You're Musashi, a storm in human form, bound only by your own relentless drive. One more joke before we push on. Why did the two-sword ronin skip the victory parade? Because his idea of celebration was walking the next road, not waving at crowds. You're walking now, the dusk swallowing your shadow, the air carrying the faint scent of rain and new challenges. The Yoshioka are done, their name dust, but your path stretches on more duels, more enemies, more lessons waiting in the haze of dawn. You move forward, untamed, unbound, a legend carving itself through steel and will, ready for whatever the world throws next. You've left the Yoshioka school's legacy in ruins. Their name now, a cautionary tale whispered in Kyoto's smoky inns and polished dojos. You're not just a ronin anymore, you're a myth. A storm that sweeps through Japan's samurai world, leaving broken blades and shattered prides in your wake. The roads you walk hum with your name, carried on the wind like a warning. Musashi, the wild one, the two-sword demon who crushed an elite clan with a single night's work. Villagers bolt their doors when your shadow falls across their paths. Swordsmen tighten their grips, wondering if they're next. You don't chase the whispers, though you chase mastery, each step a pilgrimage, each duel a prayer to something sharper, deeper than fame. The air's thick with autumn's crisp bite, the scent of fallen leaves mixing with the faint tang of your sweat as you move on. Your two swords a steady weight at your hip, the road your only home. Your legend grows wilder with every telling, sprouting like bamboo after rain. In one village, they say you fought 3 men at once with a fan, folding their egos as neatly as paper. In another, they swear you beat a spearman with a broken fishing pole, twirling it like a baton before cracking his skull. There's even a tale that you stared down a bear so hard it apologized and shuffled off. Probably nonsense, but you let it slide. Why correct them when the stories keep challengers at bay? You're not here to polish your name. You're here to hone your edge, and the myths just make the duels more interesting. You can almost taste the fear when you step into a new town, the air heavy with it, like damp wood before a fire catches. Picture a quiet riverside duel, the water's gurgle blending with the low hum of a curious crowd, the cool mist dampening your ragged cloak. Your opponent, a local swordsman with a reputation for speed, struts in, his katana gleaming like it's fresh from the forge. You stand calm, your Bakken rough-hewn, your eyes reading him the way his fingers twitch, the slight lean signaling a planned lunge. He strikes, fast as a heron's beak, but you're faster. Your Niten Ichi-ryu a blur of steel and wood, parrying with one blade, striking with the other. He's down before the river's next ripple, the crowd stunned, their murmurs carrying your name into the night. You nod, maybe mutter a tip about his stance, and vanish into the dusk, the taste of victory, sharp but fleeting, like a sip of cold stream water. Here's the canonical event. Around 1605, you defeat a group of swordsmen from the Kojiro school in a skirmish near Osaka, a clash that cements your reputation as a one-man army. Outnumbered, you turn their numbers against them, using terrain and timing to outmaneuver your two-sword style, cutting through like a scythe through wheat. Historians still debate whether this was a planned challenge to test your Niten Ichi-ryu or a spontaneous brawl sparked by their taunts. But the outcome is clear. You walk away untouched, their school's pride left bleeding, your legend swelling like a river in flood. An odd detail from the tales. They say, you used a random oar you found by the riverbank to block a sword strike, spinning it like a staff before cracking it across a swordsman's helm. True or not, it's Musashi turning whatever's at hand into a weapon, thriving in chaos. The sensory details linger. The slick feel of river mud underfoot, the sharp clack of wood meeting steel, the faint fishy tang of the nearby water. You move on, the road calling, your cloak catching the breeze, leaving whispers sharper than any blade. He's not human, he's a storm, a demon, a god. Let's toss in a joke to keep things light. Why did the Ronin's legend grow so fast? Because his enemies kept telling tall tales, mostly about how quickly they hit the ground. You're not laughing, though. You're too busy moving, the road your dojo, each duel a lesson. Your victories aren't just physical, they're psychological. Your presence alone enough to make opponents doubt their blades, their training, themselves. You've learned to smell fear, to see it in a trembling hand or a too-wide stance, and you use it, dismantling spirits before bodies fall. It's why you're unstoppable, a force that doesn't need numbers or armor, just a mind sharper than steel. Another joke to ease the tension. What's a wild swordsman's favorite bedtime story? One where the hero doesn't need a castle, just a sword and a good myth to keep the wolves at bay. You're living that story. Your legend outpacing your steps. Tales of your feet spreading to provinces you've never seen. You meet wanderers on the road, peasants sharing rice, swordsmen seeking glory, children whispering your name like a charm. Is that him? They ask, pointing at your muddy feet. You grin, maybe toss them a nod, but keep walking. Fame's a shadow, mastery's the light you chase, each duel bringing you closer to that elusive edge. The sensory world wraps you tight, the bitter crunch of wild chestnuts you eat to dull hunger, the low hum of crickets as dusk falls, the rough grain of your bakken grounding you in the chaos. Your reputation's a double-edged blade. Challengers come, drawn by your name, but so do enemies, plotting in shadows like the Yoshioka did. You stay sharp, reading the air, trusting your instincts. A duel in a bamboo grove proves it. Outnumbered again, you use the stalk's sway to mask your moves, cutting through like a wind through reeds, leaving bodies and broken egos behind. One more joke before we push on. Why did the two-sword ronin skip the tavern brawls? Because he'd rather fight legends than drunks, though both end up on the floor fast. You're walking now, the road stretching toward new horizons, the air carrying the faint scent of rain and challenge. Your legend's a wildfire, burning through Japan's samurai world, but you don't fan the flames. You're after something quieter, deeper, a truth only the blade can teach. The myths, the fear, the whispers, they're just noise. It's the silence after a duel, when your mind replays every move, that matters. You're Musashi, a storm in human form, bound only by your relentless drive, ready for whatever the world throws next. You're a legend now, a name that haunts Japan's roads like a ghost with two swords, but something's shifting inside you, something quieter than the clash of steel. You've spent years carving your path through duels, leaving broken egos and humbled masters in your wake. But the thrill of victory feels less like fire and more like embers these days. Somewhere between the Yoshioka's fall and the endless miles of dust and hunger, you've started to see the sword as more than a weapon. It's a brush, a tool for creation, not just destruction. You're still Musashi, the wild ronin, but now you're reaching for something deeper, trading blood for ink, steel for stillness. The road's still your home, its dusty trails and whispering pines your dojo, but your battles are turning inward, toward a mastery that doesn't end with a body in the dirt. Picture a quiet riverside at dusk, the water's gentle ripple blending with the hum of cicadas, the air cool with the scent of damp moss and fading sunlight. You're sitting on a smooth rock, not gripping a sword but a brush, its bristles slick with ink as you trace lines on rough paper. Your calligraphy's clumsy at first, more like a cat's paw dipped in ink than art, but you don't care. You've never been one for instant perfection. You're the guy who turned bruises into lessons, so you practice, the brush moving like your blade once did, deliberate, alive. You paint hills, rivers, birds frozen mid-flight, each stroke a duel against chaos, a way to capture the world's fleeting beauty. It's not so different from fighting. You realize both demand presence, balance, a clarity that cuts through noise. Your art isn't just a hobby, it's a revelation. The same spirit that guided your katana now flows through your hand, turning ink into landscapes, wood into sculptures, even tea ceremonies into battles of precision and grace. You're not just a warrior anymore, you're a creator, a ronin who can kill 10 men before breakfast and paint a cherry blossom branch by lunch. The samurai world doesn't know what to make of you. Musashi's painting now? They scoff over their sake, expecting a warrior, not an artist. You don't care. You see what they don't. Swordsmanship and art are twins, both demanding you see the world clearly and leave your mark with unflinching intent. The sensory details ground you, the soft scratch of brush on paper, the bitter tang of ink on your fingers, the distant call of a heron as the river reflects your work. Here's the canonical event. Around 1610, you begin creating inkwash paintings and calligraphy, notably your famous Shrike on a Dead Branch, a stark minimalist piece that captures your evolving philosophy. It's not just art, it's a turning point, showing the world and yourself that mastery extends beyond the battlefield into the quiet spaces where creation outlives combat. Historians still debate whether your pivot to art was a deliberate step toward Zen-inspired balance or a natural outgrowth of your restless mind. But the result is clear. You're redefining what it means to be a warrior, blending steel with soul. An odd detail from the tales. They say you once painted a landscape on a rice farmer's broken cart panel, using charcoal from his fire when you ran out of ink, the rough wood turning into a canvas under your hand. True or not, it's pure Musashi, finding beauty in the broken, creating where others see waste. The sensory world wraps you tight, the cool river water you dip your brush in, the faint, smoky scent of your campfire, the weight of your swords at your side, now joined by the lighter burden of a paintbrush. You're not abandoning the blade. Your katana and wakizashi are still extensions of your will, but you're seeing a wider path, one where victory isn't measured in blood but in moments captured, truths etched in ink. Let's toss in a joke to keep things light. Why did the ronin take up painting? because he wanted to win at something other than duels like best brushstroke at the village art fair. You're not chasing fair ribbons, though. You're chasing clarity. Each painting a meditation, each sculpture a duel against imperfection. Your peers laugh, calling it a quirk, but you see what they miss. Art is war without death, a way to master the world without breaking it. You study Zen now, not in temples but on your own, sitting under waterfalls, the icy rush sharpening your thoughts, or fasting until your body feels light as air, your mind clearer than ever. Another joke to ease the tension. What's a warrior? Artist's favorite canvas, the world itself. Because every stroke, whether steel or ink, leaves a mark that lasts. You're leaving marks everywhere now, not just in dojos, but in quiet corners where your brush dances. You carve wooden figures, their curves smooth under your calloused fingers, each one a lesson in patience. You practice tea ceremonies with the focus of a general, the steam rising like a battlefield's haze, the porcelain cup warm in your hands. The samurai world clings to its blades and banners, but you're forging a new path, one where creation is as fierce as combat. The sensory world fuels you. The sharp bite of wild plums you eat to dull hunger, the low hum of a distant temple bell, the rough texture of bark under your knife as you carve. People still seek you out, hot-headed challengers, curious students, pilgrims chasing the legend, but you're less interested in duels now. Sometimes you fight, your two-sword style still a storm. Sometimes you turn them away with a glance, your presence enough to win without blood. The road's quieter now, not because the world's calmed, but because you're finding peace in creation, in the balance between warrior and artist. One more joke before we push on. Why did the two-sword ronin paint birds? Because he wanted something to outfly his enemies and look prettier doing it. You're soaring in your own way, the road stretching toward new horizons, each step a blend of steel and soul. Your art's a rebellion, just like your duels, defying the samurai world's rigid codes. You're Musashi, not just a storm but a creator, leaving ink and wood where others leave scars. The world watches, whispers, fears, but you're chasing something bigger, a mastery that lives beyond the blade, etched in the quiet beauty of a brushstroke, ready for whatever lies ahead. You're in your prime, a walking legend whose name sends shivers through Japan's samurai world. But the horizon's calling with a new kind of challenge, one that'll etch your name into eternity. The whispers of Sasaki Kojiro, the swallow cutter, have grown too loud to ignore. He's no ordinary swordsman. He's a force, undefeated like you. His blade so long it's nicknamed the drying pole, slicing through the air with the elegance of a bird in flight. You hear the tales in smoky inns and dusty crossroads. Kojiro's fast, precise, a mirror of your own relentless drive, but polished where you're raw, regal where you're wild. The air hums with the promise of a clash, the scent of sea salt and anticipation sharp as you near the Kanman Straits. You're not rattled, excitement stirs in your gut, a fire you haven't felt since your first duel at 13. This is it, the fight that'll define you, not just as a warrior, but as something more. The duel's set for Ganryujima, a rocky speck of an island, remote and dramatic, the kind of place where gods might watch from the clouds. You prepare, but not the way others expect. No sleepless nights, polishing armor, no death poems or ceremonial robes. You're Musashi, after all, still sporting that wild hair and ragged cloak, looking like you just wandered out of a forest brawl. You carve a wooden bakken from an oar on the boat ride over, the wood rough under your fingers, its weight heavy with intent. The sea spray stings your face. the creak of the boat's timbers blending with the gulls' cries, and you smile faintly, knowing you're not fighting Kojiro's game. You're changing it entirely, turning his precision into a puzzle you've already solved. You step onto Ganryujima's shore, the sand crunching under your sandals, the air thick with salt and tension. Kojiro's waiting, tall and composed, his Manahoshi Zoi gleaming like it could cut the horizon itself. The crowd, retainers, fishermen, curious samurai murmurs, some snickering at your makeshift weapon, others betting on your corpse. Kojiro's lips curl into a sneer. You're late, disrespectful, armed with a stick. Good. You wanted him off balance. His anger, a crack in his perfect form. You stand calm, your bakken heavy in your hand, eyes locked on his, reading the flicker of doubt beneath his bravado. The sensory world sharpens. The crash of waves, the gritty sand underfoot, the faint, metallic tang of his drawn blade. He moves, his swallow cut, a flash of deadly grace. But you're faster, your wooden oar whistling through the air, one perfect strike cracking against his skull. Kojiro falls, instant, final, the sand drinking his blood as the crowd freezes, stunned, silent. Here's the canonical event. In 1612, you defeat Sasaki Kojiro on Ganryujima, using a carved oar to end the life of one of Japan's greatest swordsmen in a duel that becomes legend. It's not just a victory. It's the pinnacle of your career, a clash of titans where strategy and will outshine even the sharpest blade. Historians still debate whether you arrived late to unnerve Kojiro deliberately or simply misjudged the tides, but the outcome is undeniable. You've felled a rival who matched your skill, cementing your name as untouchable. An odd detail from the tales. They say you carved that bakken so hastily that it still had bits of seaweed clinging to it from the boat, a rough-hewn weapon that mocked Kojiro's polished steel. True or not, it's pure Musashi turning the ordinary into the extraordinary, winning with mind over matter. The sensory details linger, the salty wind whipping your cloak, the thud of Kojiro's body hitting the sand, the stunned silence broken only by the waves' relentless churn. You walk away, the boatman rowing you back to the mainland, the oar-turned sword clunking against the hull, a quiet weight in your hands. Let's toss in a joke to keep things light. Why did the ronin bring an oar to a sword fight? Because he wanted to row his opponent straight to Defeat Town, no paddle needed. You're not laughing, though. The victory feels heavier than you expected. Kojiro wasn't just an opponent, he was a mirror, a reflection of what you could have been in another life. Polished and bound by lords, his fall marks the end of an era, a door closing on the duels that defined you. You're not chasing fights anymore. You're chasing something deeper, a truth beyond steel. Another joke, to ease the tension. What's a wild swordsman's favorite boat ride? One that ends with a duel on an island and a legend to sail home with. You're sailing back now, the mainland's shore growing closer, the sensory world wrapping you tight, the cool spray of seawater on your skin, the creak of the boat's wood, the distant cry of a gull mourning Kojiro's fall. The crowd's whispers follow you, Musashi, the storm, the man who killed a legend, but they feel hollow. You've won, but at what cost? The road ahead feels quieter, not because the world's calmed, but because you're starting to see beyond the blade, toward a mastery that doesn't need blood to prove itself. One more joke before we slow down. Why did the two-sword ronin skip the victory party? Because his celebration was a quiet walk under the stars, not a toast with strangers. You're walking that path now, the island shrinking behind you, your legend swelling like the tide. Ganru Hujima will be tied to your name forever. A rocky stage where two destinies collided, and only one walked away. You're Musashi, not just a storm but a force. Your sword still at your side, but your eyes on a new horizon where art, zen, and the quiet of your own soul call louder than any duel. The waves lap softly at Ganryujima's shore as your boat pulls away, the horizon swallowing the island where you left Sasaki Kojiro's legend in the sand. You're quieter now, the fire that drove you through decades of duels burning low, not from weakness but from wisdom. The world still whispers your name, Miyamoto Musashi, the untamed, the unstoppable, but you're not chasing their stories anymore. You've carved your path through steel and soul, and now, as the stars wink above, you feel the pull of something gentler, something eternal. You'll retreat soon to a cave, to ink and silence, where you'll write the book of 5 rings, pouring your life's lessons into words that'll outlive you. Each stroke of the brush will be a duel won, each page a victory over chaos. Your swords rest at your side, their edges still sharp, but rarely drawn now, their weight a quiet reminder of the battles that shaped you. The night air is cool, carrying the scent of salt and pine, and your breath slows, steady, at peace. You've faced warlords, schools, entire ambushes, but the greatest fight was always within, against doubt, fear, the lure of an easier life. You won, not because you never lost, but because you never stopped walking, never stopped sharpening yourself against the world's rough edges. The road ends soon, but not yet. For now, you drift, a lone figure against the dusk, your shadow blending with the night, a whisper of a warrior who became more than his blade. Sleep well, listener. Let the fan hum, the lights dim, and the story fade like a brushstroke into silence. Musashi's path is yours now, to walk, to face, to become. Good night.